Xiao Yan's words instantly brightened Lu Shanhe's eyes, and even Lu Tian, who had been sitting quietly by the side, was filled with immense surprise. As Lu Shanhe's grandfather, Lu Tian had always been deeply concerned about the heavenly soul injury that Lu Shanhe carried. Qing Qiuya also stared at Xiao Yan in a daze. The reason Xiao Yan couldn't revive her father, Qing Long, was because his consciousness had already vanished. However, Lu Shanhe's situation was clearly not that dire. With Xiao Yan's heavenly soul healing technique, it seemed that he truly could heal Lu Shanhe's heavenly soul injury completely. Flame Emperor, is what you said true? Lu Shanhe asked Xiao Yan after hearing his words. He knew very well the state of his own body. The injury to his heavenly soul was gradually consuming his life, like a candle burning away. By his own estimation, he had no more than a century left to live, which, for someone who had once been at the level of Heavenly Supreme, was nearly as good as having no time left at all. Yes, if I'm not mistaken, the injury to Lu Lao's heavenly soul is likely related to nether fire, right? Xiao Yan asked. Exactly. It was nether fire. Back when I fought an extraterritorial heavenly emperor in a lower dimension, that beast also used nether fire. Fortunately, my heavenly soul was not directly burned, but it was still affected somewhat. And that impact nearly cost me my life, Lu Shanhe explained. It turns out that nether fire is something you can't afford to come into contact with. Xiao Yan couldn't help but smile bitterly. These days, many of the powerful beings from the extraterritorial clans were frequently using nether fire, and it had made everyone in the Great Thousand Worlds and the lower dimensions nervous. With my current abilities, it's not impossible to completely heal Lu Lao's heavenly soul injury, but it will take at least a year, Xiao Yan said to Lu Shanhe. A year? That's not too urgent, Lu Shanhe nodded, then quickly asked, I wonder when you plan to establish the boundless fire domain here? The Sacred Alliance used to guard this place, but now it has all but disbanded. If you could lead people to defend it, I believe the Alliance leader would feel some comfort in the afterlife. I came here just to check if anyone from the Sacred Alliance was still stationed here, and to negotiate the purchase of the continent. Now that this matter is settled, I believe that not long from now, some powerful people from the Dou Domain will be sent here, and we may even recruit some strong figures from the Great Thousand Worlds, Xiao Yan replied. At that point, the boundless fire domain will truly be established. Heh, it seems the Sacred Alliance has successors. The existence of the extraterritorial clans has always been a troubling issue for both the Great Thousand Worlds and the lower dimensions. Eradicating them all is almost impossible. The comforting thing is that now the Great Thousand Worlds has gained a powerful new line of defense, Lu Shanhe said. However, the next words from Xiao Yan completely took him by surprise. Eradicating the extraterritorial clans entirely is not impossible. It just requires some preparation and planning, Xiao Yan said. Eradicate the extraterritorial clans completely? How is that even possible? Lu Shanhe was clearly shocked by Xiao Yan's words. From what he knew, the extraterritorial clans had hundreds of heavenly emperor-level experts, and the Earth Emperor evil demons numbered in the tens of thousands. Such power was enough to slightly suppress the Great Thousand Worlds. If not for the fact that the lower dimensions and the Great Thousand Worlds were allied, the extraterritorial clans might have already conquered the entire Great Thousand Worlds. Xiao Yan had a way to completely eliminate the extraterritorial evil clans? Are you planning to unite all the forces of the Great Thousand Worlds and the lower dimensions to launch an apocalyptic war against the extraterritorial clans? Lu Shanhe asked Xiao Yan, as this was the only possibility he could think of. But Xiao Yan shook his head. The detailed plans will have to wait until the boundless fire domain is established. At that point, I'll discuss it with some key figures. If you're interested, Lu Lao, you could join the boundless fire domain as well. To complete the plan, we'll need plenty of powerful individuals, though not necessarily to the extent of uniting all the strong figures of the Great Thousand Worlds. If you really have such a plan, I'd be happy to join the boundless fire domain, because what the boundless fire domain wants to accomplish is similar to what the Sacred Alliance aimed for, Lu Shanhe said. However, perhaps I'm speaking out of turn, but from my point of view, without uniting all the forces of the Great Thousand Worlds and the lower dimensions, attempting to eradicate the extraterritorial evil clans might be overly ambitious. Do you even know the structure of the high-level leaders of the extraterritorial clans? What structure? Xiao Yin asked in response, as he actually didn't know the leadership structure of the extraterritorial clans. The highest level of the extraterritorial clans, based on the information we have, consists of 3 great sacred emperors. The strength of the great sacred emperors has been unknown since the Destruction War, but what is known is that under each great sacred emperor, there are several sacred emperors, whose power is comparable to a perfected heavenly supreme, Lu Shanhe explained. Below the sacred emperors are the hundreds of heavenly emperors, divided into upper and lower ranks. From the number of great sacred emperors, it's clear that the extraterritorial clans possess more than 10 perfected heavenly supremes. Are there more than 10 experts comparable to a perfected heavenly supreme? Xiao Yin muttered to himself, somewhat astonished. After all, the lineup of the extraterritorial evil clan that Lu Shanhe was referring to was truly terrifying. A perfected heavenly supreme level expert in the Great Thousand Worlds would already be powerful enough to become the clan leader of any of the primordial divine clans, so it was no wonder that the extraterritorial clans could simultaneously challenge both the Great Thousand Worlds and the lower dimensions. However, although the extraterritorial evil clan's power was shocking and even made the heavens tremble, Xiao Yin still felt that, according to the plan of Danyu, the leader of the Pill God clan, it was still within the realm of what could be dealt with. Now, do you still think you have a way to eliminate all the extraterritorial clan experts? Lu Shanhe looked at Xiao Yin with a serious expression and asked. Xiao Yin still shook his head. I believe it can be done. It can be done. Xiao Yan's firm and confident words echoed through the sacred heaven hall. Lu Shanhe couldn't help but frown once again. After knowing the immense power of the extraterritorial evil clan, Xiao Yin still had such confidence. Could it be that Xiao Yin truly had some grand plan to eliminate the extraterritorial clans? Or was Xiao Yin simply being young and reckless, unaware of the dangers? As for such questions, Lu Shanhe knew that continuing to ask would lead to no clear answers. While he didn't understand why Xiao Yin had such confidence, the only thing he could do now was to watch how Xiao Yin would perform next. Heh, since you're so confident, then let's see how remarkable your so-called plan is. Lu Shanhe smiled lightly and cupped his hands toward Xiao Yin. Then please wait and see, Senior Lu, Xiao Yin said, before turning his head to look at Xun'er and Lin beside him. Their mission in the Sacred Heaven continent was now complete. The negotiations with the Sacred Alliance had been much easier and smoother than Xiao Yin and Long Yuan had anticipated. One of the key factors, of course, was that Xiao Yin and the Dou Domain had grown powerful enough that any force in the Great Thousand Worlds now had to take them seriously. Afterward, Xiao Yin and Lin did not immediately prepare to return to the Dou Domain. After continuing their conversation with Lu Shanhe, the 3 of them stayed on the Sacred Heaven continent. They spent several days understanding the geographical layout of the continent and the distribution of surrounding continents and seas. According to Lu Shanhe, the Sacred Heaven continent spanned more than 80 million miles. Although it was not as large as the 10 supercontinents of the Great Thousand Worlds, it was still considered a massive land in comparison to many other continents in the Great Thousand Worlds. The Sacred Heaven continent had 8 major cities, all gigantic in size. In addition, there were over 1,000 large cities, and ordinary cities numbered in the tens of thousands. These cities had previously been used by the Sacred Alliance to house cultivators below the 3 heavens stage, but now, with the Sacred Alliance's departure, the entire continent had emptied out. Beyond the Sacred Heaven continent, there were over 30 medium-sized continents, and the surrounding seas numbered in the hundreds. The Sacred Alliance had left behind an invaluable geographical asset for the future boundless fire domain. After gaining a full understanding of the Sacred Heaven continent and its surroundings, Xiao Yin sent all the information back to the Dou Domain. Since Xiao Yin had left his spirit seal with others in the Dou Domain, he was able to transmit the message through the seals he had left behind. Although Xiao Yin didn't know whether Long Yuan had finished dealing with the ancient royal court negotiations, he could only trust in Long Yuan's abilities. Similarly, even though acquiring the Sacred Heaven continent no longer required the cost of 50 billion supreme spiritual liquid, Xiao Yin did not send a message to stop Long Yuan from selling the fragmentary territories on the Ruins continent. After all, The newly established boundless fire domain would still need a tremendous amount of supreme spiritual liquid. After taking care of these matters, Xiao Yin then spent 3 days contemplating the heavenly soul injury within Lu Shanhe's body. From Xiao Yan's estimates, Lu Shanhe's previous strength should have been at the peak of the lower heavenly supreme stage. This level of power would have made him one of the top super experts within the Sacred Alliance. Perhaps Lu Shanhe had once been the Grand Elder, but due to his heavenly soul injury, he was relegated to the position of Second Elder. Based on Xiao Yan's current abilities, he estimated that there was a 70% chance he could heal Lu Shanhe's heavenly soul injury, with the process taking anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. On the 8th day after arriving on the Sacred Heaven continent, at night, on a pavilion in Sacred Heaven City, Xiao Yin leaned against the slanted building. He lay there casually, yet his gaze was fixed on the distant horizon. That is the extraterritorial world, just a few 100 million miles away from here. As Xiao Yin gazed at the dark horizon where the heavens met the earth in the distance, he suddenly recalled the great vow given to him by the Dragon Emperor. A faint smile appeared on his face as he thought back to when he was just a newly ascended Earth Supreme. At that time, he was insignificant in the Great Thousand Worlds, but now, 6 years later, Xiao Yin had established a force powerful enough to make even the Primordial Divine Clan and the Myriad Spirit Divine Clan take notice. Even Xiao Yin himself had reached a pinnacle of strength that ranked among the top in the Great Thousand Worlds. However, Xiao Yin wasn't proud of this. He knew very well that deep within the Great Thousand Worlds, there were still many more powerful beings. Beyond the peak of Heavenly Supreme, there might even be existences that had surpassed it, such as the so-called ancestors of the gods. Indeed, the road ahead was long and filled with heavy responsibility. Brother Xiao Yin, what are you doing here? A familiar voice suddenly reached his ears. Xiao Yin looked up to see Xun'er's face peering down from above. I'm just reminiscing a bit. It's been a busy few years since I arrived in the Great Thousand Worlds, and I'm feeling a little sentimental. But honestly, it's a good feeling, Xiao Yin said with a grin. Then, without warning, he reached up and pulled Xun'er into his embrace. With a slight effort, she was in his arms without any resistance. Holding her delicate and perfect body in his arms, Xiao Yin felt a ripple stir within his heart. After all, in the 10 years since arriving in the Great Thousand Worlds, he and Xun'er had been separated for most of that time. Pervert, what are you doing? Xun'er shot him a glance at his sudden action. She quickly looked around, feeling a little shy despite having been with Xiao Yin for decades. What else would I do? Xiao Yin laughed, tightening his embrace. Where's Kailin? I think she's with Sister Qiuyue, Xun'er replied. I also came here to tell you something. What is it? Xiao Yin asked. Long Yuan sent a message. They've managed to organize some of the powerful figures in the Dou Domain, and they will arrive here in 3 days, Xun'er said. 3 days, huh? Xiao Yin murmured with a smile. He then waved his hand, and a black flame spread out, enveloping both him and Xun'er. The black flame vanished in an instant, and they both disappeared from the pavilion. Time passed quickly, and 3 days had passed in the blink of an eye. When the morning light of the following day spread across the Sacred Heaven continent, the countless mountain peaks in Sacred Heaven City cast long shadows under the bright sunlight. As the shadows grew longer, noon quickly arrived. At that time, under the scorching sun, the entire Sacred Heaven continent, shaped like a sea of flames, seemed to emit a heat energy that gradually made the temperature rise. On a mountain peak at the edge of the continent, Xiao Yin, Xun'er, Kailin, and Lu Shanhe stood, their gazes directed toward the blazing sun in the sky. At that moment, the sun appeared to be torn apart by a terrifying force. Before Xiao Yin and the others' eyes, a massive spatial crack stretched open, and within moments, it expanded to an incredible size, reaching hundreds of thousands of miles wide. They've arrived, Xiao Yin muttered in a low voice. As his words fell, countless figures surged out of the spatial crack, like a swarm of locusts, charging toward them. This was an army powerful enough to challenge all the forces in the Great Thousand Worlds, except for the Primordial Divine Clan and the Myriad Spirit Divine Clan. Swish, swish, swish. Countless sounds of breaking air filled the heavens, and as streaks of light flashed past the spatial crack, several figures landed from midair and appeared before Xiao Yin and the others. The newcomers were Long Yuan and the Tuasha ancient emperor. However, the primordial sacred flame and Taipang were not present, clearly having stayed behind in the Dou Domain for defense. In addition to the two heavenly supreme experts, there were also Lu Shanhe and several Earth Supreme elders. Behind them, the Dou Domain army followed, consisting of over 6,000 supreme stage powerhouses and nearly 10 million figures from the three heavens stage. Greetings, Domain Lord. The numerous Dou Domain experts, upon seeing Xiao Yin, all knelt on one knee in midair. As for Long Yuan and the Tuasha ancient emperor, due to their status as heavenly elders, they only bowed their hands toward Xiao Yin. At that moment, Lu Shanhe and the others were utterly stunned. Looking at Long Yuan and the Tuasha ancient emperor, with Lu Shanhe's cultivation, it was impossible not to recognize them as genuine heavenly supreme experts. Among them, the Tuasha ancient emperor had even reached the level of upper heavenly supreme. Has the Dou Domain grown strong enough to have 3 heavenly supremes? This is almost as powerful as the Sacred Alliance back in the day. Hee. So this is the original land of the Sacred Alliance? Everything here is much better than I expected. Long Yuan, who had just arrived, glanced around at the vast surroundings, nodding in approval. Thank you for your hard work, Elder Long Yuan, Xiao Yin replied with a smile. He then waved to the many Dou Domain experts behind him and said, the Sacred Heaven continent has thousands of large cities. All those at the supreme level who wish to be stationed here can lead teams of 1,000 and guard one city each. Yes, sir. Upon hearing Xiao Yan's orders, the thousands of supreme-level experts and nearly 10 million three heaven stage cultivators immediately began organizing their respective teams. Long Yuan, in turn, had the 8 Earth Supreme experts maintain order and ensure the proper distribution of all the newcomers. Is this Elder Lu? On the mountain peak at the edge of the continent, Long Yuan looked at Lu Shanhe, who was standing beside Xiao Yin, and cupped his hands in greeting. Pleasure to meet you. Lu Shanhe, also at the heavenly supreme level, returned the gesture. He then turned to Lu Tian, who was standing to the side, and gestured, Lu Tian, stay here and help them with the arrangements. Leave it to me, Grandpa. Lu Tian nodded and immediately sped towards the many Dou Domain experts. Clearly familiar with the Sacred Heaven continent, he was well suited to expedite the distribution of the Dou Domain army. Elder Long Yuan, Elder Ancient Emperor, Senior Lu, let's head to the Sacred Heaven Hall to discuss the creation of the Boundless Fire Domain, Xiao Yin said after entrusting the army's arrangement to the 8 Earth Supreme experts and Lu Tian. Without another word, he moved swiftly toward the distant Sacred Heaven Hall, and the others followed closely behind. As Xiao Yin and the others left, the arriving Dou Domain experts began to get busy, though most of them were unaware of the true significance of their relocation to the Great Thousand Worlds. What they would be establishing on the Sacred Heaven continent was a powerful barrier to protect the entire Great Thousand Worlds, succeeding the Sacred Alliance. The Boundless Fire Domain would begin here. Above the vast, endless seas, countless continents spread across the horizon, each separated by distances of hundreds of thousands, even millions of miles. This lack of order in the distribution of continents made communication between them incredibly difficult. For this reason, the region had been embroiled in ceaseless wars for millions of years, and even regular heavenly supreme experts found it impossible to unify it. This region was called the Wandering Realm. Typically, due to the constant warfare, the Wandering Realm was ignored by those from the outside world. However, half a month ago, a message from the nearby Ice Spirit Domain spread throughout the entire Wandering Realm, catching the attention of all the forces within. Every expert who heard the news was shocked, for the person behind the incident was someone from the Wandering Realm itself. That person was Martial Ancestor Lin Dong from the Martial Realm. Rumor had it that for some unknown reason, Martial Ancestor Lin Dong had single-handedly entered the Ice Spirit clan and fought many of their strongest warriors. In the end, he broke through the Ice Spirit clan's protective formation and defeated the 3 Ice Emperors and the clan leader. The implications of this event went far beyond the surrounding regions, enough to echo throughout the entire Great Thousand Worlds. The one behind the incident, martial ancestor Lin Dong, would become a name known to every powerful cultivator in the Great Thousand Worlds. As for the Wandering Realm, it was thrown into turmoil because Lin Dong was from here. All forces within the Wandering Realm now had one goal: to unify the entire region. This was a feat that no ordinary Earth Supreme expert could accomplish, and even typical Heavenly Supremes lacked the absolute confidence to succeed. However, martial ancestor Lin Dong's actions had caused all the forces in the Wandering Realm to reconsider their stance. After all, no ordinary Heavenly Supreme had the power to stir up the Ice Spirit clan in such a way, making it clear that Lin Dong possessed strength beyond the average Heavenly Supreme. If martial ancestor Lin Dong were to lead the martial realm in an invasion of the Wandering Realm, the outcome was unpredictable. Naturally, people began to worry about the fate of the Sun God Temple, Starflare Pavilion, and the Titan Heavenly Domain. After all, the martial realm had conflicts with these forces, and while they had been quiet for the past 2 years, it was expected that Lin Dong would soon take action and launch an offensive against them. As the entire Wandering Realm debated what would happen next, a message from the Ice Spirit clan reached the martial realm's 4 profound continents. Because of this message, the martial realm was now too preoccupied to care about the discussions taking place in other worlds. At this moment, in a certain area of the 4 profound continents, a spatial portal leading to the Ice Spirit continent was fully formed in mid-air. Before this portal, several figures hovered in the air, with Lin Dong and Bing Huan at the forefront. In front of them stood Ling Qingzhu, Yin, and Qing Tan. It had been over half a month since Lin Dong caused a commotion in the Ice Spirit clan, and by now, this incident had spread throughout the Wandering Realm, as expected by the senior leaders of the martial realm. However, since Lin Dong's matters with the Ice Spirit clan were not yet fully resolved, the martial realm was not paying much attention to the reactions from the outside world. Lin Dong Ji, you and Bing Huan must give it your all, Qing Tan said with a bright smile, looking at Lin Dong and Bing Huan, who were about to head to the Ice Spirit clan. This shouldn't take too long, at most a month, or at most half a year. During this time, the martial realm will rely on you all to manage. However, Elder Song is no longer here. So many matters still need to be discussed carefully, Lin Dong replied. He was about to go with Bing Huan to the Ice Spirit clan for the matter of the past half-month involving Bing Sangqiang. The goal was to use the spirit conduction formation to recall all the fragments of Bing Huan's reincarnation that were scattered across the Great Thousand Worlds. Though the martial realm has become the highest focus in the Wandering Realm, because of your presence, the deterrence from the martial realm will likely make those forces who previously had designs on us step back. So, just focus on completing the collection of Bing Huan's reincarnation fragments at the Ice Spirit clan, Ling Qingzhu said. Big brother, don't worry. The martial realm is in our hands. Even if 3 or 4 perfected Earth Supremes come, I can handle it, Yin said confidently, patting his chest. Lin Dong smiled at his words. He knew that Yin had made some progress with the earthly will method left by the sacred drum Heavenly Sovereign. From Lin Dong's estimation, Yan's mastery of the earthly will could already rival a lower-level Heavenly Supreme. If Yin studied it for another 6 months, he might even be able to contend with a lower Heavenly Supreme expert in battle. Leaving Yin behind to guard the martial realm, Lin Dong was confident that no one in the Wandering Realm would dare to attack it. Lin Dong nodded to Ling Qingzhu, Qing Tan, and Yin, then glanced at Bing Huan. With the 3 of them seeing him off, Lin Dong, holding Bing Huan's hand, moved quickly into the spatial portal leading to the Ice Spirit clan, disappearing from sight. Buzz. As Lin Dong and Bing Huan left, the spatial portal slowly began to close. Ling Qingzhu and the others, seeing this, were about to leave when, just as they turned to leave, a figure appeared in the distant sky, tearing through the air. A few flashes later, the figure appeared in front of them. It was Diao. Looks like I'm a bit late. Has Lin Dong already left? Diao asked, looking at the still slightly distorted space behind them. Big brother will be back in a few months. You're not here early either, Yin said, looking at Diao. Just had some things to deal with, Diao replied. What happened? Ling Qingzhu asked immediately. It's from Elder Lu and the others, Diao said. Elder Lu? Aren't they sent to monitor the movements of the forces at the Sun God Temple? Ling Qingzhu asked. Because they were monitoring the sun god temple, they sent the message, Diao replied, grinning. Guess what happened at the sun god temple? Could it be they're ready to strike at the martial realm? Yin furrowed his brows. The sun god temple had been silent for the past 2 years, clearly preparing for something. Given the history between the sun god temple and the martial realm, it was likely their preparation was aimed at the martial realm. However, Diao shook his head and then spoke a shocking statement that left everyone stunned. The sun god temple was destroyed by an unknown powerful being. Meanwhile, on the ice spirit continent, several 100 million miles away from the wandering realm, a spatial portal slowly materialized. 2 figures emerged from it, Lin Dong and Bing Huan, who had traveled from the martial realm. Upon arriving at the ice spirit continent, the vast expanse of the blue, icy world once again filled Lin Dong and Bing Huan's sight. Clearly, the happiest person was Bing Huan. Having grown up in such an icy environment, she was far more accustomed to this place than the warmer environment of the martial realm. Lin Dong-ji, let's go. Grandpa and the others should be waiting for us, Bing Huan said, tugging on Lin Dong's hand, eager to head to the inner regions of the ice spirit continent. Looking at the joyful Bing Huan, Lin Dong smiled and picked her up, then swiftly moved toward the depths of the ice spirit continent. Along the way, they passed by numerous deep ravines on the ground. These were clearly left behind during Lin Dong's previous rampage through the Ice Spirit Clan. However, the healing ability of the world was truly astonishing. After more than half a month, the unstable space in the entire Ice Spirit continent had been completely restored. As Lin Dong and Bing Huan rushed towards the inner region of the Ice Spirit continent, atop a massive ice and snow peak, there lay a vast white plaza stretching over 100,000 feet. At that moment, spiritual light surged, and a dazzling array of mysterious spiritual patterns rapidly intertwined, forming a massive spiritual formation over 100,000 feet in size. Outside the formation stood 2 figures. One was the Grand Elder Bing Tsangqiang, and the other was the First Elder, who had spent half a month setting up this spiritual formation. The 2 were waiting for someone arriving from the martial realm. Grand Elder, have you heard about something? Asked the First Elder, standing at the edge of the peak as both he and Bing Tsangqiang gazed into the distant sky. Is it about the Fire Spirit Clan? Bing Tsangqiang inquired. Yes, the First Elder nodded. This is indeed a time of great change. The Great Thousand Worlds hasn't experienced so many events in such a short time in ages. A man called the Flame Emperor Xiao Yin recently won the championship at the 10,000 Pills Gathering, and now he's sparring with the Fire Spirit Ancestor. It's rumored that the Fire Spirit Clan had one of their fires taken, though we don't know which fire it was. To be able to spar with the Fire Spirit Ancestor and take one of their fires, Flame Emperor Xiao Yin must be above the upper heavenly supreme level. As for the Fire Spirit Clan, the only flames that could attract his attention are 2, the clan guarding Divine Flame, the Ancient Emperor's Flame, and the unknown fire of the clan leader, Fenxing, Bing Tsangqiang said. The former ranks 3rd on the 100 million flames ranking and was subdued by the Fire Spirit Ancestor thousands of years ago. The latter ranks 5th on the list and encompasses all attributes of power. I suspect that the Ancient Emperor's Flame is too important to the Fire Spirit Clan. If Xiaoyin tried to take it, the clan would surely erupt. Since they haven't, it seems likely that the fire he was after is the unknown fire. Both Martial Ancestor Lin Dong and Flame Emperor Xiao Yin come from lower dimensions, and they arrived around the same time. One caused trouble for our clan, while the other sought out the Fire Spirit Clan. At this rate, the future protagonists of the Great Thousand Worlds will likely be those who break through their shackles, the First Elder said. Who can predict the future? We can only watch, Bing Tsangqiang sighed, gazing into the distant sky. His brow furrowed slightly as he added, "They've arrived." Hearing this, the First Elder continued to stare at the distant horizon. Just then, a sound of something breaking through the air was heard from afar. Swish. As the sound reached them, Bing Tsangqiang and the First Elder saw 2 figures, travel-worn and dusty, appearing before them. One was a young man, and the other, a young woman. They slowly descended from the sky and landed at the edge of the peak where Bing Tsangqiang and the First Elder stood. Grandfather. The young woman immediately rushed into Bing Tsangqiang's arms. The young man who had accompanied her gave a slight bow to Bing Sangqiong. I am Lin Dong, and I apologize for the trouble caused by my actions last time. I hope the Ice Spirit Clan can forgive me, Lin Dong said. Is this the Spirit Conduction Formation? Lin Dong asked as he looked at the enormous formation that had been completed. Unlike others, Lin Dong, though not a spiritual array master, didn't find spiritual formations as distant as other cultivators did. After all, he was also a talisman master, and both talisman masters and spiritual array masters shared a common aspect, the use of spiritual seals. While talisman masters used spiritual seals to refine tools and create spiritual artifacts, spiritual array masters used them to set up formations. The foundational principle was the same, but the paths diverged from there. The spirit conduction formation isn't complicated, but the larger it is, the more effort it requires to construct. Likewise, the more massive the formation, the more supreme spiritual liquid is needed to activate it. The first elder explained to Lin Dong. This formation has a range covering the entire Great Thousand Worlds, so it consumes millions of supreme spiritual liquid in just a day, and in a month, it will exceed several billion. I will repay the Ice Spirit Clan for all the supreme spiritual liquid used, Lin Dong said. He could hear the first elder's helplessness in his tone, clearly feeling the pain of using such vast amounts of supreme spiritual liquid just to collect the other fragments of Bing Huan's reincarnation. To the first elder, this felt like an extravagant waste. Heh, there's no need for that, Bing Sangqiong said with a smile. Xun'er is my granddaughter. Consider this a small favor from me as her grandfather. He then led Bing Huan toward the heart of the spiritual formation. Seeing this, the first elder waved his hand, and Lin Dong soon saw over 100 cosmic bags floating towards him. These are 120 portions of supreme spiritual liquid, each containing 50 million. At the rate the spirit conduction formation consumes it, one portion is needed every day. You'll be responsible for overseeing this process here, the first elder said as he handed the cosmic bags to Lin Dong. He then added, this is the foundation of the Ice Spirit Clan. Leave it to me. Lin Dong smiled, then flipped his hand. For cosmic bags instantly appeared. Half a month ago, after returning to the martial realm, Lin Dong had instructed someone to collect supreme spiritual liquid. After this period, Lin Dong had gathered nearly 400 million units of supreme spiritual liquid. Though it was far less than the 6 billion invested by the Ice Spirit Clan, it could still keep the spirit conduction formation running for another 7 to 8 days. Seeing Lin Dong take out hundreds of millions of supreme spiritual liquid, the first elder helplessly shook his head, then looked at Ice Huan, who had already been brought to the core of the spirit conduction formation by Ice Sangqiong. Following Ice Sangqiong's instructions, Ice Huan sat down cross-legged with her eyes closed at the formation's core. Her delicate figure seemed tiny in comparison to the enormous formation, almost like an ant. After settling Ice Huan, Ice Sangqiong withdrew from the formation. Let's begin. Stepping out of the formation, Ice Sangqiong spoke to the first elder, who stood outside the formation. Lin Dong then saw 10 cosmic bags appear in Ice Sangqiong's hands. Ice Sangqiong opened all 10 bags, and waves of vast spiritual energy poured out, surging into the air and intertwining into torrents over the mountaintop. This was the 500 million units of supreme spiritual liquid, and its appearance caused the winds to rage. The land within a few hundred miles trembled, and the spiritual energy in the air seemed to boil. Ice Sangqiong, Senior, what do we do next? Lin Dong asked, looking at the torrents of supreme spiritual liquid roaring in midair. He then glanced at Ice Huan, who was sitting with her eyes closed at the core of the formation. Could they really inject this immense force directly into her body? Surely, she wouldn't be able to withstand it. This spirit conduction formation is on a grand scale. Just activating it requires 500 million units of supreme spiritual liquid. Ice Huan's body and soul could never bear this force alone, so someone needs to enter the formation with her to protect her, the first elder explained. Let me do it. Lin Dong responded immediately. Ice Sangqiong and the first elder nodded. Lin Dong moved swiftly and flew to the formation's core, sitting cross-legged opposite Ice Huan. Sister Bing, expose your soul. the first elder said from nearby as Lin Dong and Ice Huan sat down facing each other. The spirit conduction formation required a trigger to gather soul fragments, and normally, cultivators would never expose their souls unless facing extreme danger, as without the protection of the body, the soul was left vulnerable to harm. However, Ice Huan hesitated not at all. She activated her soul and extended it in front of her. With Lin Dong's protection nearby, she felt the utmost safety. As Ice Huan revealed her soul, Lin Dong activated his heavenly soul power to create a barrier that even a perfected Earth Supreme would have difficulty breaking. At the same time, Lin Dong did something that stunned both Ice Sangqiong and the First Elder. He linked his heavenly soul with Ice Huan's. By linking their souls, Ice Huan's soul power would be greatly enhanced, aiding the spirit conduction formation. However, this decision was fraught with danger. If something happened to Ice Huan's soul, all the backlash would directly affect Lin Dong's heavenly soul. Lin Dong had gone to such lengths for Ice Huan. Brother Lin Dong, this is very dangerous, Ice Huan's soul transmitted to him directly, as their souls were now linked. Their conversation could not be heard by anyone else. Don't worry, the formation is about to activate. As long as I'm here, you'll be safe. Trust me, Lin Dong reassured her through their soul connection. Just as Huan once burned through reincarnation for him, why wouldn't he risk it all for her? He had once searched through heaven and earth for Huan, and now it was time to fulfill that vow. Then, all right. Having some of Huan's memories, Ice Huan knew that once Lin Dong made up his mind, there was no stopping him. It was exactly this stubbornness that made Ice Huan feel even more secure. Since that was the case, no matter what happened next, she would face it with Lin Dong. It seems they're ready. Let's begin. This time, I wish them good luck, Bing Sangqiong said. Then with a flash of his figure, he retreated to a mountain peak not far away. Meanwhile, the first elder, who had stayed outside the spirit formation, was preparing to activate the spirit conduction formation. The first elder's gaze narrowed slightly, clearly focusing his attention. Then, with a wave of his hand, thousands upon thousands of spirit seals radiating golden light suddenly surged out from his body. Under his command, these spirit seals fell onto the spirit conduction formation, and at that moment, the formation, which had been still, erupted in a brilliant burst of light so dazzling that it could be seen clearly from millions of miles away. At this moment, every powerful figure on the ice spirit continent looked up and saw a golden pillar of light rising from a certain location on the continent. This pillar seemed to have some kind of connection to the heavens and earth. Though everyone could see the pillar from a great distance, each person felt as if they were standing right within the pillar itself, experiencing a strange sensation. At the base of the golden pillar, the first elder, after activating the spirit conduction formation, lifted his gaze to watch the rushing torrents of supreme spiritual liquid in the air. These spiritual liquids were enveloped by the golden pillar and were gradually drawn in by the formation's power. Boom! As the spirit conduction formation absorbed 500 million units of supreme spiritual liquid, the golden pillar slowly faded away, transforming into a massive golden shield towering at a height of 100,000 zhang. The shield covered the entire mountaintop, and within it, both Lin Dong and Bing Huan began to sense a scanning force emanating from Bing Huan's divine soul, spreading outward. The speed of this expansion was the fastest Lin Dong had ever witnessed, nearly covering millions of miles in an instant. After just one breath, the scanning range had nearly covered the entire ice spirit continent, and then it continued to spread toward the distant horizon. At this speed, within half an hour, the scanning range would reach the edge of the Great Thousand Worlds. However, the one who felt the most pain was undoubtedly the first elder of the Ice Spirit clan. While such a vast scan was shocking, the cost behind it was terrifying. After all, it consumed 50 million units of supreme spiritual liquid every day. At that moment, Bing Sangqiong and the first elder were unaware of another strange event unfolding. Even Lin Dong himself hadn't anticipated it, and as he was directly involved, Lin Dong was horrified. This was because Lin Dong's heavenly soul power, in collaboration with the spirit conduction formation, was experiencing an unusual phenomenon. Lin Dong's soul detection range, under the guidance of the formation, was expanding at an alarming speed, covering every corner of the great thousand worlds.